بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. مشاهدينا الكرام، مشاهدي ديار بإيميجرانتس، قناة اليوتيوب والصفحة والجروب، أهلا وسهلا بكم. معنا اليوم الأخت عليا. She's running for the trustee. Something I don't know about it. شيء أنا ما بعرفش عنه وبدي أسأل عنه. عليا من الجيل الثاني من المهاجرين، وبالتالي اليوم في البداية كنا نقابل المهاجرين الجدد. اليوم هنكلم عليا من المهاجرين اللي ولدوا هنا. أهلا وسهلا أخت عليا. يا مرحبا بك. أنا بعرف أن أنت من عائلة مهاجرة، يعني أهلك هاجروا وولدتي هنا. احكي لنا شوي عن الموضوع هذا.
So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I was born and raised in Winnipeg. My parents came from different parts of the world, and they met here. My dad is Lebanese, and my mom's Italian. So, growing up in a very diverse home, culturally speaking, it was an experience. But they also shared common goals about how they wanted to raise their children in North America. So that's a nice perspective to look at, having my parents culturally different but have the same values in terms of what they want for their children in Canada. Good education, success, prosperity, and have a wholesome life. So that was my experience growing up. English was not their first language. My mom has a very thick Italian accent, so I tease her sometimes that she can't say the properly. Because of the alphabet is very different, but also a lot of my drive for better education came from both of my parents. My dad speaks French. His first language is actually French. He grew up in Africa, West Africa, I should say, and he also immigrated and lived in 3 different continents. So my dad is very cultured in that way. He speaks Arabic fluently, French fluently, and English fluently. Yeah, so he's a jack of all trades kind of.
I will run away from the normal question. How you are keeping your culture or back home culture, because now you are a mixed one.
Yeah, I don't. You know, it's funny. People ask me where am I from, and I say I'm from Canada.
Yes.
I can't
I'm
say
proudly Canadian.
I'm proudly Canadian with a wonderful blend of cultures, right?
Yes.
And the funny thing about culture is that it's the spice of life. I say, like, really, it's the flavor that you get in life, and not just by the foods and the music and the language. It's also the heritage, right? And it really enriches your life and the way you see things around, or how you observe or form ideas of your own in the present context of where you live. So I live in Canada. I grew up in Canada, but when I went home, my parents had a different experience and different expectations in the sense of what's a good curfew, right? But they shared the experience of how you form friendships and what are the values of friendships and what's the value of education and hard work, right? So they shared those perspectives. How you get there could have been different, right? But I was very lucky to have a very diverse way of looking at things.
I think that helped you to deal with different people. That's why you are going now into the wide one.
A little bit about myself, maybe I can tell you, is I grew up in the school system, and then I graduated from University of Winnipeg with a degree in conflict resolution. So I'm a mediator. I'm a trained mediator. I help people with very diverse perspectives on issues they may have and help them find a way to navigate this conflict or these issues that they have in their relationship. And relationships mean so many different things, right? It's your workplace relationship, it's your marriage or your relationship with a partner, family, neighbors. I help neighbors deal with conflict because they are also in a relationship together.
Question: what drives you towards this school division? Or in the beginning, let us know, what are school divisions?
Well, school divisions are groups of community, so within regions. So Winnipeg has 6 or 7 school divisions, and they're responsible for a body and area of the city and the schools that are within that area. So they're responsible for not only the operations part of it, meaning like the structure of the schools and, you know, how many students are there, how much programming is adequate for them. So they really try to be there to address the needs of the community. So they're sectioned off that way. So there's 6 of them.
So what is the role of the school trustee which you are running for?
Okay, so
why you are running for this?
Why am I running? Okay, so 2 questions. Why am I running and what is a school trustee? So the school trustee is really an advocate for the community, but also for the school systems, right? They have to make sure, so if you want to look at it on a corporate level, you have an organization. They are governed by a board. Okay, that board sets the action plan or the divisional plan of what should these schools do, right? And the school board also employs the superintendent. The superintendent is like the executive director. So they're the link between the schools, what's happening on the ground with the principals and the students and the everyday operations, and translating that information to the board so they have adequate information on how they can set the direction for that school system, right, within that area. So
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I wanted to go into which school division you are running for.
So the school division I'm running under is Pembina Trails School Division. So I reside in Pembina Trails. So I have to run in my ward or run in that section or that school division. I'm running in Ward 3, which has about 11 schools. The whole of Pembina Trails has about 34 schools, and they have 14,000 students. So if I get elected, okay, I run in my particular constituency, so it's a group of community within, because Pembina Trails is big, right? These school divisions are huge. So in order to make sure that every constituency's section is addressed, they have to make sure they have adequate representation. So every ward has 3 school trustees. Pembina Trails has 9 in total, okay? So there's 3 seats up for grab, okay? And these elected officials are elected by the community, which is a nice idea because I think it's a very grassroots idea. You're elected by your people. You're elected to be the voice of your community because you should know what are the concerns within your community, right?
In this case, you bring me to the question. What should people know about the trustee?
Well, so what you should know about school trustees is they're there to help the community. So every community has different needs. There's the general educational need that everybody should have standard-wise, but then there are nuances. Like I said, cultures bring spice to life. Different communities have different nuances about them. So the school trustee is there to represent those voices. So if there's an influx of, say, immigration happening within more areas in the city, we have an issue, or we have an issue to address, a concern to address is make sure that there's enough EAL teachers to support these new Canadians about how to acquire the language, because that's the first thing you need. How are you going to operate in a system or learn from it if you can't speak their language? And language is also attached to culture, right? So how do we communicate ideas, needs, interests if we don't know the language? So say, for instance, Pembina Trails has an influx of newcomer community, say primarily in the Syrian community. There are 2 factors there. Not only do they need to know English, but there is also an emotional mental health component there that needs to be addressed. So how are we equipping, as school trustees, the schools with adequate programming for English, but also meeting the needs of trauma students, right? How are we making sure there's enough social workers there to help them get through what they're doing, but also being in a safe environment, learning education? So we're fostering 2 things, not only the academic, but also the emotional, social aspect of the student. So that's very important for the school trustee to be able to address those needs.
If I say that it's a matter of give and get, what do you want from the community and what you will give the community?
What do I want from the community?
Yes. Other than the support.
Other than the support.
Yes.
I think, you know, the 3 things that I'm running under is diversity, collaboration, and innovation. You can't run and operate solely on yourself. We are interdependent as a society.
Human.
So collaboration is very important. How do we become innovative is really having a diverse amount of voices that come to the table and share their ideas. Like I said, perspective is very important. Just because you're a newcomer to the community doesn't mean that you have nothing to contribute. You have a lot to contribute. You have an experience that is very important to the fabric of what we call as Canada, or how we identify as Canadians. Your perspective of your worldview, your experience of where you grew up, your family, the government system, is very important for us to know what needs that you need coming as a newcomer to Canada. And not just as a newcomer, you as a parent, you have values and ideas on how to enrich the life of your child that might be beneficial to the other children in the community that come from other different backgrounds. So that cohesiveness of sharing ideas is very important. So that's what I need from the community. I need to hear from them. I need to hear from them how they think what would improve the system, or what are things that we're missing that are not meeting the needs. Like you have a teacher that speaks about IELTS. I remember my teacher once said to me that no question is a bad question in a classroom, because if you're thinking about it, somebody else is probably holding on to it and feeling really subconscious about asking that question. So really, I would say the same to the community. Your input, your ideas, your concerns are probably shared by a lot of other people who probably haven't mustered up the courage to ask the questions or get involved. And I think that's really important.
Be open.
Yeah, be very
give.
open.
Be positive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Collaboration. And through collaboration, they say your teamwork, why is so essential for teamwork rather than working on your own, is because not only are you getting all those ideas, but creativity happens, right? Innovation happens. We don't need to do the same old song and dance for education or anything else. We need to really think strategically in the time that we're living. How do we advance ourselves through innovation? And we can only do that by learning from each other.
Sometimes I say I don't like to hear only the echo of my sound.
Yeah.
I need to hear from people. That's why when I did my group, which we are now recording this episode for the group, really, is I wanted people to share, and I was happy today in the class of the IELTS when they start sharing, sending their questions, which I know that so many other people have the same question, but they are still lazy in sharing. We need people to share. We need you to be with us in order to be able to help you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alia, for this meeting.
Thank you for having
and we
me.
hope to see you in the trustee.
Thank you.
أحبتنا في مجموعة The Arab Immigrants واليوتيوب والصفحة، أهلا وسهلا بكم، وإن شاء الله نلتقيكم مرة أخرى مع ضيف جديد. تحياتي.